Okay, my strategy was alternative ways to motivate students to write, and it is geared towards 5th grade. Good morning, 5th graders. Let us read the morning message together. Good morning, 5th graders. Today we will be discussing different ways we can write about topics. We already know what genres, nonfiction, and plot is, so we're going to use them to express our ideas in writing. What are genres, nonfiction, and plot? Can anyone tell me what you think those are? By raising your hand? Yes. You're right. Genres are different categories that we use to base things. Can anyone tell me what plot is? Yes. Good. Yes, plot is the structure of a story or different things that happen. And then nonfiction's our last one. Does anyone know what that one is? You're right. That is different things that happen in our life that are real life and not something that is made up. Are you as excited as I am to learn new ways to write using a given text? So, today's text that we're going to be using is the plot summary from a book that we're going to be reading later on in the semester called Hatchet. It's by Gary Paulson. Alright, here's the plot overview. Brian Robeson, a 13-year-old from New York City, boards a plane headed from Hampton, New York to the Canadian Northwoods to visit his father. His parents' recent divorce weighs heavily on him, as does the secret that his mother is having an affair. The pilot gives him a very brief flying lesson in which Brian has control of the plane for a few minutes. The pilot seems to be experiencing increasing pain in his shoulder, arm, and stomach. At first, Brian doesn't think this is very serious, but as the pilot begins jerking in his seat, it becomes clear that he is having a heart attack. The attack stops and the pilot is dead. Brian is forced to take over the controls. After a harrowing descent, the plane crashes into a lake in the Canadian woods, where Brian is stranded. Brian has little to eat and is injured from the crash, but believes he will soon be rescued. He finds some strange berries to eat, which makes him extremely sick. He then finds a raspberry patch, where he spots a bear. Brian constructs a shelter in the middle of the night. He hears a noise. A porcupine has entered his shelter, and Brian throws the hatchet in its direction. It shoots its quills into Brian's leg, causing him severe pain. Brian attempts to build a fire with no matches and eventually succeeds when he learns how to strike his hatchet against a stone to ignite sparks. He finds turtle eggs and eagerly eats them. One day a plane flies overhead but does not see him and continues on its way, leaving Brian devastated and hopeless. He attempts to commit suicide by cutting himself with his hatchet, but survives the attempt and emerges from the experience determined to embrace life, to take an active role in his own fate. Brian soon catches his first fish and enjoys a big feast. Alright, and then I would continue reading until it goes. I know the story's a little risque, but... Alright. And then now we're going to be going into 3 different stations. You have the multi-genre station, the nonfiction station, and the plot station. But I'm going to break you up into your groups in a moment after I explain what you do at each station. The first station is the multi-genre station. And in this station, what you will be doing is choosing an element in the plot that I just read to you, and you're going to be creating a different genre of your choosing that you will after share with your group. So there's some prompts here that you can choose from. So what you're going to do is pick an element in the story to write and do a different multi-genre project. Some of the different projects you can do is like an advice column for Brian, or you can do a comic strip, or you can do like a poster, like a missing poster. Maybe his mom made it for him, trying to find out where he's at because they haven't heard from him in a while. And at each station you'll have different coloring utensils and blank paper and pencils to sketch out your drawing. And you'll also have a plot summary at your own station to pick an element that you want to do. So you can go ahead and get started on that when I break you up into your group, and then you'll share it with your group after. The second station is the nonfiction writing station. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose some kind of nonfiction writing that you want to write about, such as this Gary Paulson piece in Hatchet. That's a real life story because that's something that could happen to someone. So there's also writing prompts at this station for you to use, like in a personal event from your life. You can either report on an animal. Those are just some of the ones that I gave you. And for those, you can write it in your own native language. So if it's in English, you can write it in English. If you need to write it in Spanish, just be ready to share with the group what you wrote about. And then the last station is the plot scaffold station. So this gives you a couple of prompts to already write your story, and then there's going to be 4 elements that I want you to include in your plot scaffold story that you're going to create. And the 4 elements are the hook, the problem, the action, action, reaction, and the resolution. And within those, you can go, once you get to the station, there's a description for each of those if you need a little refresher. So for the first one, I'll be a student and I'm going to choose to do an obituary for the pilot. And then I would say give each station at least, in your regular classroom 10 minutes to get this stuff done. So the first piece is an obituary. I just made up a name for our pilot. And I'm going to share it with my group. George Hamilton, pilot, father, brother, loving husband, taken too soon, doing what he loved most, flying. He was a member of the local school board. And then you just have everyone show that there are different things. Like someone could do a talk show transcript of, maybe Brian and his experiences being stranded in the woods. Alright, and the second one, nonfiction writing. I chose to use pictures for like a lower level student you can do. So they're going to discuss this with their classmates. So, I'm happy. Can you guess why I'm happy? Yes, it's my birthday, and I'm excited that my family and friends are coming over. I don't want any presents because that's not what it's about. All I want is the love for my family being there with me to celebrate. What do you do for your birthday? And then you can discuss as a group if you want. And then in the last one of the plot scaffolds that I had written out for students is, after Brian is rescued by the plane, ... So, in the interest of time, I pre-wrote. After Brian was rescued by the plane, he was taken back to his mother. That's kind of the hook. She was no longer with her boyfriend. My dad moved back to help bring me up to health and didn't want an accident to happen again, so he stayed close by. My parents still didn't get along to this point, and that's kind of the problem. But I saw a friendship begin to form as they started being together a little more in my interest. That's kind of the action-reaction. So, after my accident, they decided it was time for them to put aside their differences and be there for me the best way that they could. So there's kind of the resolution. Alright, and how this helps them after all this is done, and then how this helps them as a teacher, I want them to be able to still enjoy writing without realizing that they're kind of writing. And this is a good way to do it, like an obituary. They're writing with their creative interests over something that they just read without realizing that they're actually writing. So that's kind of what I like best about this. Same thing with like a plot scaffold. They're kind of earning the different parts of it, but they get to make it their own. So it kind of gives them ownership and allows them to get really involved with the writing that they're doing. And then the nonfiction writing, it kind of just allows them to explore things that could possibly happen. Maybe they had something in their mind that they've always dreamed of doing. So this allows them to get it on paper and write stuff without actually realizing that they're writing.